Shad White in the House State Auditor. You know, my heart goes out to a lot of people out there that wear the uniform or wore the uniform. Certainly for some of the elderly who had to watch some of this going on as far as Palestinian protests, burning the flag in Washington, D.C., and it tore me up. I can imagine what some of them thought, Shad.
Yeah, it's incredibly frustrating. As somebody who serves in the military right now, I can just tell you it's frustrating. People don't realize, you know, when you go to sign up and join the military, a big part of your early training is learning to salute the flag properly, stand at attention properly. On any military base, you know, at a specific hour of every day, everything stops and you salute the flag and they play the national anthem. And folks say, well, why do they do that? It's because if you're being asked to sacrifice your time and time away from your family and potentially risk your life, you have to be constantly reminded of why we're doing this and to continue to build loyalty to our country, the greatest country on earth. Yeah. And part of that is building a culture of respect for the flag and our traditions and patriotism. And then when you see somebody pull our flag down or graffiti our monuments or whatever it is, it makes you incredibly angry. And especially for the men and women who sacrificed and were wounded or had family members killed in battle. Mm-hmm. It is incredibly frustrating to see that. I think all those people ought to be arrested. I think they ought to be locked up. And I think we ought to send a message to those young people. If you want to pull down our flag and step on it, there's going to be some consequences.
For even just violating the fire code within the city limits. I don't care how you do it, but lock them up for a while and let them understand that there's... 100%. Well, the other part of that is this. And there was one video I saw. Somebody in 5th, 6th floor window of an office was filming several buses pull up several blocks away from the White House of these Palestinian youngsters getting out. All their placards, all their T-shirts. Who bussed them there? Who's paid for them to do that?
Great question.
You think these people coalesced at one location at a bus terminal, rented the bus themselves, and said, I'm so passionate about it? And some of these guys were just, looks like Eric from a gated community and had probably no idea what the hell Palestine was all about.
Oh, yeah. They don't know anything. I mean, they have no concept of history. They haven't read anything. That's why you see signs that say gays for Gaza. I'm like, do y'all know what they do to gay people over there? Yeah. Have you read anything at all? Have you researched it for a millisecond? I think Bibi Netanyahu said this week that reading a sign gays for Gaza is like reading a sign chickens for KFC. I mean, it makes no sense.
No, it doesn't.
It makes no sense at all.
By
the way, they have KFC over there. I will say this. I went to Bethlehem. Yeah. This is not a joke. I went to Bethlehem 10 years ago, and when you go into Bethlehem, one of the first restaurants you see is a KFC. It's super weird.
Is it kosher?
I did not visit. I did not eat in Bethlehem. I went to the church and I left after that.
I sent or reposted a video of a guy who was on the ground in the land of Hamas in Gaza, and he did a man and woman on the street interview about this. These people, now I hope he didn't edit it, but almost everybody he got to, Jews ought to be killed, they ought to be annihilated, it's okay to do this to women, and even the women were saying that as some of the things that is in Sharia law they're okay with. And it was amazing. You watch that, and they also ask about gays and lesbians. And your life expectancy there, if you're open, gay, or lesbian, on the things that you are promoting would not be that long.
It's just, it's sickening to really hear that. I have not seen that video, but to just know that there are, quote unquote, normal people walking around on the street who believe that stuff, it just shows you how broken our country is. And let me say this, too. It shows you that we are in a fight for the minds of the next generation of Americans right now. And if you do not, if you're a public official, if you have any sort of platform, if you are not engaged in that fight to try to keep us as a country wedded to the notions of patriotism, of merit, of hard work, of common sense. If you don't fight for those ideas and you just think that this is a passing moment or you can be quiet on the sidelines, you are making a mistake. You are making a mistake, and you're jeopardizing the future of our country.
I don't know who they could have picked if they didn't go with Kamala Harris. That would have made me feel any better. But she doesn't make me feel any better about where we're going because, she's old enough to be in the baby boomer. She just squeezes in to the baby boomer demographics. But and I said earlier, because of her statements more than once in different locations, that we lost during the middle of the pandemic, 250 million Americans died.
Yeah, I saw that.
So we've gotten out of a dementia-mindless person and gone into a younger Democrat-mindless person.
Yeah, and
she said some
too.
squirrely things.
Oh yeah, and even when she's speaking coherently, the things that she's talking about are scary. I mean, it's just scary stuff. I mean, when you hear her talk about abolishing ICE or starting from scratch, as she said, or what she said about the border, and she was supposed to be fixing the border, for a period like that really didn't go well. Or talking about how we should be bailing out some of the people who were in BLM protests, who are burning down property. Yeah, that's the kind of stuff that shows that she is the most radical nominee of any major party in the modern era. And we have to be aware of that. We have to stand up, and we got to get President Trump reelected.
I do, yeah, and maybe this is going to energize people who said he's so far ahead now. There's no problem that Biden can possibly win it. Well, now you better make darn sure you're there because I think this is going to be close.
The bill also says, quote, every individual who is a resident of the United States is entitled to benefits for health care services under this act. Not every individual who's a citizen, but every individual who's a resident. Mm-hmm. So you support giving universal health care, Medicare for all, to people who are in this country illegally?
Let me just be very clear about this. I am opposed to any policy that would deny in our country any human being from access to public safety, public education, or public health, period.
Not every individual who's a citizen, but every individual who's a resident.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not going to be any better off on that one, probably even worse.
Gosh, worse. Yeah. Worse off. As auditor, somebody who constantly watches taxpayer funds, I can't think of a worse way to spend taxpayer funds than on illegal immigrants. And that's what you're going to get with Kamala Harris.
We have a limited time in this segment here, so I want to make sure you get to what's new and what's going on so we can just get a little report on that.
Yeah, we're focused a lot right now on government waste. We've had a great 6 years in the auditor's office. My team and I, we've recovered more money than any other 6-year period in the history of the state auditor's office by a lot, by several multiples, about $76 million at this point. And we're going to keep doing those cases and those recovery cases and our criminal cases. But we're also, Paul, as you know, focusing a lot more on just waste in government, even if it doesn't involve some sort of criminal violation. So the kind of classic example that I've used over the last 2 years is DEI. In my alma mater, Ole Miss, they have a DEI office that has over 20 staffers. The head of the DEI office makes more money than the governor and the lieutenant governor combined. And what do we get for spending taxpayer money in this way? What are they doing in this office? Well, I'll use their own words. One of their greatest accomplishments, according to them, in the past couple of years, was handing out a grant to study equity-based preschool yoga. I have 3 kids at home, all under the age of 6. I could probably teach them yoga if I had to, but I don't know what equity-based yoga for preschoolers is. That's the kind of stuff that I see us spending money on, and that's millions of dollars going to DEI in the last couple of years. I see us spending money on that, and I can't help but think, Paul, what would happen to our economy if we got that money going to roads and bridges or cops? That's what they did in North Carolina. They cut their DEI budget, and they put it all into police. Or what would happen if we use that money to fund a tax cut? That's the kind of stuff that can get our economy moving, not this garbage that we keep spending money on.
I do know there's a move, and I've seen this in several different stories. They're kind of, because it's got such a bad name now as DEI, they're moving it to different acronyms.
Yep.
And so you got to watch that because it probably is going to pop up some other way.
It's like whack-a-mole. These people are deeply committed to their ideology. And so what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to, hit this one on the head, stop DEI, but then we're going to have to be vigilant as parents and as taxpayers to make sure that our money's not being used to indoctrinate our kids, whatever they want to call it, and then we're going to have to cut the head off that one, and then we're going to have to do it again, and we're going to do it again. And that's the only way we win in the long run. They're here for the full fight. They're here for the long run. We got to be here for the long run, too.
You had a couple of recent indictments or charges. One was a former community college technician. Got a couple of extra seconds. I'll give you the final word when we return. State Auditor Shad White, right after this.
We're in the middle of a crisis caused by this pandemic that is a public health crisis. We're looking at over 220 million Americans who just in the last several months died.
Wow. 220, that's two-thirds of the country. And we didn't even get the bulletin. That says, though, we didn't even get the message.
I think I was one of those who died. Yeah, I mean, like, if you start getting down to the math, like, I probably had to be one of those who got put out of my misery.
About 2:55, I came into the studio, turned on the flat screen on the wall, and I saw the orangest Joe Biden I've ever seen. It took me 30 minutes, and I came up with these 4 solutions to this because I wanted an answer. Number 1, his ICU was moved to the beach with no umbrella. Oh, yeah. Or number 2, he's using some medicines from his son's stash. Number 3 was that he was spray tanned by Marjorie Taylor Greene. Or number 4, Steve Holland did his makeup. And I can't come up to any other reason for that.
He's entered full Oompa Loompa territory at this point. There's just no other way to figure it out. Yeah,
that was terrible. Absolutely terrible.
I'll be honest, I didn't watch it last night because I've just been so frustrated seeing evidence of the cover-up that they did to our country. They just lied for months and months and months about his mental state and his acuity.
Yep.
And I couldn't stand to watch another second.
Turn on a dime. And here's one thing that you will not hear, and if you do, you probably deserve a prize. You will not hear anybody on MSNBC call Kamala the border czar anymore.
Oh, no. She never had any involvement with that, right?
No.
God, she didn't have, she had no responsibility. You played the quote a second ago that she wanted to give benefits to illegal immigrants. That shows you her mindset as it relates to the border.
I don't think she has a very good relationship in the black community. I really don't. First of all, she's got to prove she's black, and there are a lot of people who are suspect about that. We just went through this with a lot of commonality as far as Barack Obama, which, to be honest with you, there were a lot of brothers and sisters in either the Republican Party or Democrat Party, certainly in the Democrat Party, who was wishing for the glass ceiling to be broke and this guy to be one of the best presidents ever in American history. They were left shattered. Economically, spiritually, every other way. Certainly safety-wise, after the Obama administration's in 2 terms. But real quick, any new indictments or anything else that you want to mention?
We've had, our continual round of cases that we keep working on. Community college employee, parole officer that we got. As you probably saw, Jacob Van Landingham pleaded guilty to wire fraud yesterday in the welfare scandal. So we just keep working through all of those criminal cases.
He was a neuroscientist?
Correct. Yep, correct.
From Florida.
He was the one from Florida who had taken TANF money and said he was going to research this cure for concussions or this treatment for concussions and pleaded guilty to wire fraud yesterday. So, as you know, Paul, we don't get to make the call about who faces charges or not. Prosecutors do that. But because we have developed good cases and the team at the auditor's office keeps doing that, prosecutors keep taking our cases, and so we keep getting results for the taxpayers. I'll say this as a side project that we just released in the last month. We continually study uses of taxpayer dollars and also things that are going to cost the taxpayers in the long run. And one thing we've seen is that our school absenteeism rate in K-12 schools is very, very high. It's much worse than all the other states around us. Everybody had absenteeism problems during COVID. Most states started to improve. Our improvements has started to tail off, and it's bad. I mean, we've got 1 out of 4 kids in our K-12 schools who are still chronically absent from school. And what we know based on social science research is if your butt's not in school and in a seat, you're less likely to graduate from high school, which in turn means you're more likely to go to prison, you're more likely to be reliant on social services, you're less likely to hold down a good job later in life. We estimate that just the kids who are chronically absent in the year 2023 will end up costing taxpayers north of $500 million over the course of their lives because they will not be leading productive, healthy lives where they give back to the state of Mississippi. We got to do something about that, Paul. And my office proposed all these different solutions, and I think they're tough solutions. I've heard some other solutions out there that I don't think are actually going to get at the problem. But what we could do, for instance, other states do this. We could tell these kids in high school, look, if you can't show up for school, no driver's license. You can't drive. Yeah. We need to tell these parents, look, we got more truancy officers on the street. Get ready. They're coming to visit. We need to tell schools that they're going to be held accountable for getting their kids' butts in the seats. That's the kind of stuff that we need to do.
Do you know what the breakdown is as far as middle school versus high school and the absentee rate?
I can't cite it for you right offhand, but that's in the report. If you go look at the percentage
you're
absent
concerned
by
even
year.
if it's elementary, but you're certainly concerned middle school, but you're mostly concerned if this is happening in high school.
Yeah, it increases over the life of kids, unfortunately.
Yeah.
As kids get more independent, they get the ability to walk away from school, and it increases. And again, this is a problem everywhere, but Mississippi is doing worse than every state that touches us. That's important.
We've got to center on it and bring some attention to it. Lieutenant Governor said something yesterday that also I think it has a lot of merit, is a law in the 2025 session to work on that when you come into class, you do not take your cell phone with you.
Get rid of cell phones. Absolutely.
And there's so many good attributes to work on that, and we'll talk more about it with you, with the Lieutenant Governor, and with this incredible audience. Shad, thank you for coming in, sir. Appreciate it very much.
Brother.
Have a great weekend.
Thank you.